Time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
All right, Flexers ready? Welcome to the Flex Live Edition. We are back. There are just 3 co-hosts in front of you right now. We are waiting patiently again. Justin Graver had to go save some hamsters from the side of the road that he saw on his way home from work. He is collecting them. He's going to take them to the proper authorities. Then he'll be joining us later in the show. He's working his way through that smog, so we'll give him just a minute and he'll be here. We'll try to talk about his picks best we can. We are brought to you by BroadwaySportsMedia.com, part of our 440 Sports. Go on there and check out all of our articles that are hidden now. Lots of good stuff. Greenlaw's so giddy with excitement for your terrible Twitter takes coming up again. It's a highlight of my week every week. We'll have some film stuff coming up, hopefully with the NFL ever releases all 22, all that and more coming. Go to BroadwaySportsMedia.com and check out all of our merchandise. Use Flex15 to get you a discount on your new favorite t-shirt that will come to you quickly. It'll be the most comfortable thing you've ever worn. It'll be hilarious. It'll be a conversation starter. Hit up Zach on Twitter, ask him the story behind it so you can tell the story of the Lake Panawana boys, the Gator boys, and all that good stuff. BroadwaySportsMedia.com. So, guys, like I said, Graver's going to join us for a little bit, and luckily he's not here, so he can't gloat about his winning week. He did take the lead early in sit start, going 3-2 last week. Congratulations, Justin. You don't get to celebrate because you're not here. That's what you get for being a humanitarian.
I mean, let's be honest. Celebrating week 1 is a little bit poor form. It's like that Joe Banner guy taking a parade around because week 1 proved that his takes about the Tennessee Titans were right and that they will have an awful season even though they added Julio Jones. It's week 1. Week 1 was a shitstorm.
Also, with Joe Banner, I think you have to predict something first. I didn't see him make a take all offseason about the Titans and how Julio Jones wasn't going to help him. So I'm not really sure where that came from, but yeah, a little early to go.
Help us out. Yeah, it was just a bad day for Titans. Hopefully some better times are ahead for them. Hopefully there's some better times ahead for your other 3 pickers here on the show. So let's get right into it. Obviously for my picks last week as well, if Raheem Mostert wasn't made of your grandma's brittle that she hides under the couch at Christmas time, I might have gone 3-2 as well, but he decided to get hurt in like the first play. I don't even know if it was first play, but that would track with my luck.
At this point, my fantasy advice for anybody going forward is to ignore all Raheem Mostert hype. Every year, there's going to be Raheem Mostert hype. Ignore it. Do not draft him. If you're going to draft him in like the 15th round and just ride it out.
Yeah, for sure. I was caught up reading a comment from our CEO. It's thank you for making an appearance, sir. So my bad on that, guys. So let's get into it with our sits and starts for the week here. Justin, obviously, he's not here to defend himself or anything, but we're going to start with his sit at quarterback, and he's sitting Jared Goff.
Yeah, he's sitting Jared Goff, the Detroit Lions. We're really not too prepared for this. I didn't know that we were actually going to be doing.
They're playing the Packers, so I'm imagining he's betting on a revenge game from the Packers. I mean, Jared Goff, added a lot of points in garbage time last week, so I'm not so sure he's startable. The offensive line does look good, so maybe they protect him a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't be too comfortable starting Jared Goff either.
I will say this: the offensive line looked not just good; they looked pretty great. And I know that they were a much maligned offensive line coming out of the preseason because Penei Sewell looked horrible for whatever reason. And I guess they swapped him from where he was over to left tackle.
Yeah, Decker was hurt, so they moved him to left, and he looked amazing.
He looked awesome. And this game could have been the Lions to win this past weekend if Tyrell Williams hadn't been knocked out with the helmet-to-helmet hit, because they were starting to get in their groove without their number 1 wide receiver. And if Tyrell Williams is gone, this could be a little bit different. But here's the thing about Jared Goff. It's the same thing about 2017 Blake Bortles, or anytime Blake Bortles is really good at fantasy football. This is littered with opportunity for the Jared Goff to rack up some garbage time points, just like he did last week. And I get that it's a Packers revenge game, but I don't know if it's a Packers defense revenge game as much as it is an Aaron Rodgers revenge game. I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, only 12 quarterbacks can be considered quarterback one. You're probably looking at quarterback 13 to quarterback 14.
Yeah, just a couple points from Justin here in the chat. Thank you for at least participating there, sir. Goff was lucky to score so many points last week. No way he repeats his QB1 this week. Lions comeback happened against Niners backups. He's not buying the hype. He's not buying it moving
And
forward.
let's be honest here. This is very unsafe for Justin to be texting and driving in the midst of smog in LA traffic.
I was going to say
And
the
we do
same,
not
but I
condone
wonder if
this.
he's got maybe a Tesla or something that, self-driving him around the smog.
Could be.
Well, Greenlaw, let's go to you next. I think you've got to start at quarterback, and I think Zach kind of hinted it to it just a second ago.
Yeah, so I don't think you can have Aaron Rodgers have like a sub 40 quarterback rating 2 weeks in a row. So that's my pick for a start this week. I can't imagine I'll have this available to me the rest of the year, but Aaron Rodgers against the Lions, they gave up 18th most points last week against the 49ers. I realize the 49ers don't have like the best quarterback as far as sorry, reading JB's Tesla.
He's full of it
comment.
tonight, man.
Yeah, he's really spamming the chat over here.
Living in Tennessee, not owning a Tesla, not pretentious. California,
Yeah,
Tesla,
exactly.
pretentious.
Interesting how he's spinning that. Yeah, so I think this is a big Aaron Rodgers revenge game. I would be surprised if this game is close. Although, who knows? Maybe they destroy all the kneecaps again. They killed Raheem Mostert's kneecap.
Yeah.
More kneecaps on the way.
Be wary of Aaron Jones this weekend and his kneecaps being gone. We said this last week, though, about the San Francisco 49ers, and don't we all agree that the San Francisco 49ers defense is a lot better than the Green Bay Packers defense? I mean, maybe we differ on that, but yeah, ultimately, though, to go back to the main point, Aaron Rodgers, definitely got to put him in, because this is what he did last year. He started off a little slow last year, then people started benching him, trying to get too cute about Aaron Rodgers and all this. He is going to come back, and that is your overall QB1 will be Aaron Rodgers this week. No doubt, hands down. I would bet $50 on it if there was like fantasy betting for Caesar's Palace or whatever, where you could put that in there, because I would bet $50 easily on him to be the overall QB1. And let's be honest here, week 1 was a fluke. Noted liar, week 1 was a fluke. So these sit starts are going to be fairly easy, and we all will probably come out like 5-0 this week.
I doubt it.
So, this is just to prove the point. Don't let week 1 influence what is common sense.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers carving up the Detroit Lions just kind of seems poetic for week 2.
Yeah.
Dude, doubting him, he's going to come out there on fire. So,
and don't forget to put your questions in the chat. We'll get to those at the end.
You read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. Questions there, like Zach said, not going to repeat it. So, Zach, let's let you take it away. Who is your start?
Going to the Gator Boys, bud. Going back to Gator Boy number 1, numero uno, Justin Herbert, who had a lackluster showing against the Washington football team last week. And I say lackluster in the sense that they just couldn't get it done in the red zone. They moved the ball fairly easy, but when it got to the red zone, they just kind of stalled out for the most part. But they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys allowed last week the 5th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. They allowed the most points to fantasy tight ends, and they allowed the 6th most points to fantasy wide receivers. You put all of that together, this is a rebound game from Justin Herbert. There is no DeMarcus Lawrence. He is out. And then there is Randy Gregory, who is also out because he's on the COVID list. Now, he could come back, but we don't know really what that timeline looks like right now. And above all this, the Dallas offense is such an explosive offense that is going to force fantasy quarterbacks, the opposing fantasy teams' quarterbacks, to have to pass, because Dallas's run defense is actually really good. Now, it's week 1. So Dallas's run defense went against Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. So we don't really know how good the run defense is, but if they are able to keep on passing the Dallas offense, then that's going to force Justin Herbert to keep on passing, which is going to mean that you're looking at probably a 50 attempt kind of game from Justin Herbert.
Yeah, if you watch that game last week with Dallas and the Buccaneers, neither team could really get a stop. The only time that the Cowboys defense stopped him was because of, unforced error, really, whether it was Fournette batting up the ball for an interception or those couple dumb fumbles by Godwin and Ronald Jones. So I'm not so sure that they're going to be able to stop the Chargers, and the Chargers probably won't be able to stop Dallas either. So definitely take the over in this game and start both quarterbacks.
I like that. And y'all know how much of a fan of Herbert I am. So I think he's going to have a bounce back game here. I think Dallas is also, it's going to be a fun game to watch, unlike the Titans game this last Sunday. So it should be a little more fun. Well, I guess the Cardinals fans had a lot of fun with it, but it was pretty much bloody murder misery for everybody else. So we'll go on to me then. I have a sit at quarterback, and my sit I think is easy because it's Tyrod Taylor. I do not think it's to the player. It's also the team that he's on. I don't think he's going to do it 2 weeks in a row. I think that the Browns also last week had a bad showing against the Chiefs, but they're also going against Patrick Mahomes. Also, Tyrod Taylor was going against a JV team in the Jaguars. So, yeah, that's the worst team in the NFL that he's going against. He put up a lot of great numbers. I'm also going to have a sit. So if I'm wrong on this, my sit for my receiver and my quarterback could be wrong this week. I just don't like the matchup. I think the Browns are going to rebound on defense. I think they're going to get after Taylor. They're probably going to stick a needle in his lungs when he's down on the pile or something and get him out of the game. I just think he's going to have a worse game this week. And it's the yin and yang of that. It's the Browns were against a really good quarterback. Now they're going to a not as good quarterback. And Tyrod was going against a bad defense. He's going to go up against a better defense that has a better pass rush that's going to get after him. I just don't see him repeating this week as a top quarterback.
Well, I will say this. The Browns defense harassed Patrick Mahomes all day. And Patrick Mahomes is not Tyrod Taylor, or Two-Rod, no matter how you may make up your fake name over there, Tyrod. But, I mean, it's night and day. The two teams that both these teams are playing from last week, you're right, Ryan. And in the end, I mean, there is no doubt this is going to be a come to earth, come to Jesus meeting for the Houston Texans. It was a nice week 1 storyline. Enjoy your barbecues.
It's hilarious. My actual note that I forgot to say was the Texans will come down to earth this week. So, Zach, I hear you, man. Anything else there, Greenlaw?
No, I'm going to save my Texans thoughts for my next pick.
Well, then take it away. We're going to go on to running backs, and who is your sit at running back?
So again, we're sitting Texans. We're going to sit Mark Ingram this week. He had, I think, 26 carries and a touchdown, which was a lot of his usage. I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot in this game. They're not going to be able to, run it 50 times like they did against the Jaguars because this is going to be a game, I think, where at the end of it, we're going to go, how bad are the Jaguars? Because they're going to beat the Texans so bad, we're going to wonder how the Texans beat the Jaguars by 30 points. This unbelievably bad coaching job by Urban Meyer. I can't believe he hasn't quit yet, honestly. And Boren, to address your question, is there a liquor cart by the baby gate? There is, but next to the liquor cart, as we see on the counter back here, is Degas. Degas is sitting up there.
Here. Look at him.
He's sitting right there. Giant, freakish penguin sitting right there.
I swear to you, if you turn the lights off, you come around the corner, you would give yourself a heart attack, much like Urban Meyer is going to fake at some point this season, seeing that penguin sitting there.
So the lights were completely on. Maggie walked down here to do some laundry, and it scared her just like that. So it takes very little.
Some genius bought that for you, knowing the hours of entertainment you were going to get out of that for your family.
I told you on this podcast that I would be sending you stuff now that I have your address.
And item number 1, Degas sitting right there.
Degas.
So let's cover Justin's. I don't know how much longer he's got, but let's cover Justin. He's actually, his start this week is Austin Eckler.
And so, like I said, the LA Chargers are playing Dallas, and they were pretty good against two running backs. Like, I'm not going to say they're above average running backs or anything, but 2 running backs are known to catch passes, known to get some yards after the catch and, get the best of some defenses here and there. Austin Eckler, he probably will sneak into the bottom of the RB2 echelon here. We're talking probably RB24 or RB23. I'm not really going to bet against that he goes out, but Larry Roundtree III is apparently stealing snaps over there, and if this turns into a game where they have to rely less on the running backs, I think that this could be a little bit tricky, but I think Austin Eckler sneaks into it as an RB2.
It would worry me a little bit that he didn't have many targets last week, and it seems like all of their targets are in the downfield passing game. So I think going forward this season, if that becomes like a truth that he's not going to be involved in the passing game, that hurts his value quite a bit.
Because that was the main selling point of drafting Austin Eckler, was the fact that he was involved in the passing game.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've got him on a couple of fantasy teams, so I really hope that something changes there. I think he did get a goal line carry for touchdown, or he got the ball within the 10-yard line. So that was at least positive that he's getting that stuff. So this has got to be a rebound game for him. I actually look for him to be more involved in the passing game this week with the matchup there. So hopefully they'll be able to work him in and get him some more points for your fantasy teams out there in fantasy land.
Oh.
Justin says, Eckler finishing top 10 this week. He's catching 8+ passes this week. Book it.
It is booked and is written in stone.
It is booked. Is someone taking him up on that for the opposite?
Oh, he is not getting 8+.
Yeah, 8 catches. Everyone on here should be taking that.
Yeah. No doubt.
One more bell just for all 3 of us taking that against it. You guys are letting week 1 against a good Washington influence you too much. Maybe, but it's still a scheme kind of dictates. And if they're changing to a different thing to try to keep him healthy and only use him, not using him as much as they did, that could be concerning. So just at the very least, to that point, it's something to watch.
And look at what the Bucs did to the Cowboys last week. They threw it all over the field on them. Why wouldn't down the field on them? Why wouldn't the Chargers do the same exact thing?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Washington, first off, he had one 5-yard rushing touchdown, but they went to the red zone numerous times and didn't walk away with a score. And I think that is going to hurt Austin Eckler's value, as well as the lack of targets, as well as in this game, they're going to attack Dallas through the air, and he's not involved in the air, and it's going to be from outside of the red zone. So I think that limits what Austin Eckler could do. And I also think that the running back situation that happened this last week in the fantasy landscape were only two, if I'm not mistaken, running backs went over 100 yards rushing out of the myriad of running backs out of there. That's not going to happen again. Last week was such a total stat fluke that if Austin Eckler, or even who I'm going to talk about next, has the same stat line they did last week, they're probably not going to even be close to top 10, much less, crack the top 24. It's going to be hard for them.
So with that tease, go ahead and roll with your sit at running back.
I hate to do it because I'm a Memphis boy, and that's where I went to college. But I'm gonna have to take a big old crap on the Kenneth Gainwell train, because this is it. He snuck in somehow to the top 24 with a stat line of 9 carries for 37 yards, 6 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. That got him as an RB2 last week. That is ridiculous stat line. That's not enough to keep you in an RB2/RB1 scenario. He is, though, the red zone running back, but this team is going up against the 49ers, and I don't know how quick can the 49ers really pull away in this game to where they're going to have to ditch Kenneth Gainwell and keep Miles Sanders on the field, or just go straight without any kind of running back. And that's what I worry about with the plays of Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell, much like it's kind of like a different scenario, but sort of the same as what it was for the Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Chargers, is that the Eagles are going to end up having to pass a lot, because San Francisco is going to put up points and score no matter who the F their running back is going to be this week, because they've already picked up 2 this week after apparently just giving up on Trey Sermon and whatever's going on with that scenario. And let's not even talk about how they just pretty much gave up on Brandon Ayuk. and decided that, hey, he's not really ready. He can only play like 15 snaps because, he's not really consistent enough on the field, even though he got 700 and something yards last year and through the receiver. So I don't even know what's going on in San Francisco. All I know is this, is that the Eagles are going to have to pass, and I am not sure that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be involved like he was last year. And that stat line's not going to pass it every week.
Yeah, plus Jalen Hurts really did look good there in that opening game, and he's kind of living up to the hype that was the offseason building for him. And with Devontae Smith out there as well, you got to think that they're going to keep utilizing that portion of their playbook, or at least you'd hope they could. And again, with Hurts being a little mobile himself, that's got to hurt the running back stock. Even if it's just hurting it 2%, it's still kind of taking it away. So if they're going to be forced to throw, forced to keep up, forced to do all that, then, it doesn't look good, like you're saying, for the running backs.
I just want to make a note. You mentioned Devonta Smith there. I was thinking about it again this weekend because all the rookie wide receivers looked great per usual. How, again, revisiting, we had one of the best wide receiver classes ever, and the Titans ended up with Des Fitzpatrick and Racey McMath. Every time I think about it,
DK Metcalf. I don't know if you've
that's
heard
true. That. Julio Jones, DK Metcalf hybrid in Racey McMath, 6th-round gem. But honestly, what were they doing?
Well, it kind of made me happy, but also kind of made me sad because I have a lot of stock in Terrace Marshall, but he didn't really do much. But he was targeted a lot.
Yeah, his targets were great, and his snap percentages were amazing too. Like his peripherals were there.
Yeah, the Terrace Marshall week 1 thing is the anomaly for the rookie wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good points. So I'm going to go into my start for running back. And you mentioned just a little bit ago about how running backs got to 100 yards. One of them was Damian Harris. And I'm actually going to say start him again because some trending things that I like. First of all, he's playing the Jets. And for at least the near future, I'm going to suggest starting skill players, including running backs, against the Jets. I think they gave up the 26 most points in fantasy last week. I know it's week 1, so I don't really want to dive too much into what they gave up because matchups and all that can be kind of misleading. We'll rely on those a little more as the season goes. But what was trending, a stat that I did like, was he accounted for 23 of the 30 rushing attempts last week for the Patriots. And my boy, Mac Jones, didn't look too bad either. So that offense looks to be a little more competent.
Generational talent.
It looks a little more competent than it was last year. So I really like the balance they had. I like that he did the most what he could. He needs a goal line carry to make me feel a little more comfortable about this. He doesn't need to fumble late in the game like he did. That's my only other concern is that going to put him in the doghouse? But it looks like he's going to, we had a question we'll get to in a little bit, including James White, but it looks like he's going to be the bell cow there for at least the foreseeable future. And I like the matchup this week for him as well.
Well, it has to put people at ease that Ramondre Stevenson was not even a factor this past week, and he fumbled too. So it's not like you have with Damian Harris, while he fumbled, you have someone that was getting equal snaps that is coming towards him to take over that first and second down kind of running back role. So you don't have anybody breathing down his neck other than James White, who didn't fumble. And I'm with you. I'm a little concerned about the fumbling issue if that keeps continuing, because then you're going to see more James White in the future.
Yeah, but not for now. I think if it becomes an issue, but for this next week, I like it. We'll revisit and maybe, but at least with that 23 of 30, that's a stat I can really get behind, especially this early in the season when they're trying to establish an identity and get after it. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with it. So I mean, it's one of those things. Just be cautious. Like the Austin Eckler target share, you need to be cautious of turnovers from Damian Harris.
For sure. So let's move on to receivers. Then we're moving right along. We're not even going to have give Graver a chance to get with us tonight and give any thoughts in person on any of his picks. So let's go on to Greenlaw. Let's start it off though. Who is your start at wide receiver this week? And I'm really hoping you're right.
Yeah, me too. It's Arthur Juan Brown going against the Seahawks. I figure if Seattle can give up 20 points to Zach Pascal on his own, I think that A.J. Brown can muster wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 type week. Mike Vrabel after the game mentioned that they want to get AJ the ball more early on in the game, and I don't think it was until like the 5th series that they targeted him or Julio on Sunday, and so I think that's going to be a point of emphasis, especially against the Seattle secondary, which is definitely the weak point of the defense.
And plus, just real quick, Zach, you'll have a lot more than I do, but you got to think too, with what you saw from Julio with the drops, the chemistry's not quite there. That Tannehill may, in a pinch, go back to what he's comfortable with and what he knows. So A.J. Brown actually might be a good pick there, just because they've got to get it rolling again, and Tannehill knows what A.J. can do. He's still learning with Julio. You figure Julio could just overcome some of that with his talent. Apparently that wasn't the case this last weekend.
Yeah, as long as Taylor Lewan, as long as there's no like 195-pound safeties there, Taylor Lewan to the ground.
I
like
get really bad news for Taylor Lewan is that Jamal Adams is like the best pass rushing safety in the league.
It's over.
He might pancake Lewan a couple times.
I'm actually hoping to break that play down if the All-22 can ever come out and I can grab a gift, because God, he's got in such a bad position, got his feet narrow, tried to overcommit and overcompensate, and just.
I'll say this about A.J. Brown is that he got 8 targets last week. Sure, he only caught 4 of them, but you like to see that even with Julio in there, he was still getting a lot of targets thrown his way. And there will be that's good, right? I mean, for a guy like A.J. Brown, the more you get the targets to him, the better he is as the season goes on.
Right. He's a super efficient wide receiver, and if he gets 8 targets a game for the rest of the year, I would be elated with that as far as, fantasy production goes, because he hasn't averaged that yet so far throughout his career.
That 16 minutes isn't looking good if he's still able to text and stopped in traffic. So I agree with all that, but let's transition there, because I think we have an easy one to transition here to Justin's pick, because you just mentioned it, that if Zach Pascal could, then maybe he's going to fall down to earth this week. Justin's sit is Zach Pascal versus the Rams. So you think maybe a little Jalen Ramsey affected this, and maybe there's going to be even more pressure on what the Colts quarterback situation. Maybe another foot gets injured or something. Maybe that's Justin's thinking here.
Well, yeah, I also think that he thinks that Zach Pascal sucks, which he's correct.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I also think, as Ben Wright said in our chat earlier today, it's going to be Aaron Donald versus Julian Davenport, which is quite the mismatch.
Yeah. I mean, this offensive line is kind of in shambles going up against the LA Rams, which is not the best time to do it. And they did harass Andy Dalton and the better wide receivers that were over in Chicago. Right now, I'm kind of surprised to say this, the better run game over there in Chicago with David Montgomery. I mean, he is the Frankenstein of running backs, as
it's finally coming true.
Yeah, and I mean, he looks good, and Nyheim Hines had a lot of shares, and this Jonathan Taylor train is not going to be worth the value that you placed on him if you drafted him in the high first round. It's going to be tough. Going to be tough to keep that.
When I was watching David Montgomery on Sunday, I thought, wow, that guy's got the athleticism of Sony Michel. I said that about 5 times out loud to myself. Just in awe of him.
Just in awe.
Bringing it back into receivers, because we're past the running backs, boys. Pascal happened, Justin's last point, Pascal happened to score 2 TDs, which bolstered his score, but the usage isn't sustainable. So, yeah. Plus, as Zach said, Pascal sucks. Yeah. So, Zach, with that great wisdom, why don't we move on to your start at wide receiver?
My start's DK Metcalf, and I'd like to, instead of spending 5 minutes talking about why DK Metcalf is going to, beat the drums off the Tennessee Titans, I would just like to take a moment of silence for the Tennessee Titans defense in their Week 2 matchup.
All the hopes, all the dreams, let them wash away. So you don't like the matchup here with DK Metcalf, superhuman, going against the corners, whatever the combination they're going to be that they're going to roll out there.
Well, I mean, it's first off, Stoney Keeley says Metcalf over Lockett. No, I'm starting both of them. I'm betting both of them to get touchdowns, and I'm betting Gerald Everett get touchdowns. I mean, start your Seahawks. Listen, here's the thing about this Tennessee Titans team. We saw it all last year, is the Tennessee Titans offense is probably going to come to life. The Tennessee Titans defense is going to stay the same. So this team is still going to, the Seahawks are still going to put up a bunch of points against this team. You got to start DK Metcalf. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 2 touchdowns. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Lockett got 2 touchdowns either, and they both walked away with 2 touchdowns each. I don't know when's the last time that's happened in a game like that. but I could technically see both these Seattle wide receivers having top 12 performances against the Tennessee Titans defense, because I don't think they have the speed to go to match up with Tyler Lockett, and I don't think they have the size to match up with DK Metcalf.
You're asking when it happened last. I mean, it had to have been close this past week with DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk. They both had 2 touchdowns, didn't they?
Yeah. They torched the Titans. So why would it happen again?
I do. Yeah, exactly. I do wonder though, and hear me out on this. What if Janoris Jenkins gets the right cleat?
You guys are right. They both did get top 10.
Yeah, both top 10 guys. Okay, Janoris Jenkins gets some longer studs in his cleats. That changes everything, right? Because that's what they were talking about after the game. It was him slipping and falling. That was the whole reason for the defensive collapse.
Who's Janoris Jenkins?
Jackrabbit. So he gets those longer spikes. They're good.
I don't know. He's going from the frying pan to the fire, whatever that phrase is, with what he's going to have to see this week. It's not getting much better. Hopkins is definitely a better wide receiver, but I mean, this combination is going to suck for them as well. And so I definitely agree there. I mean, my flex pick here in a minute I'm going to take Zach's advice and just start Seahawks all over the place. But before we get there, my sit receiver, as I hinted to earlier in the show, was it's the same team as my quarterback sit this week. So obviously I'm putting all my eggs in one basket here, but it's Braden Cooks. I don't have a whole lot of stats for you. I think it's a letdown game. Braden Cooks.
Do you think you would want to say Brandon Cooks?
Brandon Cooks, whatever. I've never gotten his name right in the history of him being in the league. I think I've gotten it wrong a total of 45 times. So you know who I'm talking about. All right. He's the receiving target for Tyrod Taylor. In that name that also probably is wrong. So get off my back.
Yeah, it's actually Tyrod Taylor. I would definitely sit Braden. Tyrod, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I would sit.
I thought it was Tyrod. I thought that's what he changed it to.
If you have Braden Cooks, though, I would sit him too, as well as Brandon Cooks.
Okay, so sit Brandon Cooks. Texans.
Sit both of them. All the Cooks. Sit them.
All the Cooks.
Too many.
Get them out of the kitchen. Sit them down in the alley there. So yeah, but I just think it's a letdown game for the Texans as a whole, and I don't like it. And again, look back to what we said earlier about the Browns. It's a better matchup for the Browns defense as well. I just don't think the Texans and Browns are going to hang 40 on the Texans. And like Zach said earlier, or Greenlaw, whoever said it was about the Jags, we're really going to see how bad they are too.
I would say this. I wish that there was a way for NFL teams to get negative points in a game, because I think this would be one of those games where somehow the Texans could get negative points. If Ronald Jones can get me negative points in fantasy football, I think there should be negative points for NFL teams.
I agree. That would be really fun to watch too. You might even have like a negative game when the Jags play the Texans later on this year in the rematch of the century.
That's how bad Brandon's going to be. His name is Braden or whatever. They're going to beat the a couple letters off there for him. So
they're going to beat a couple consonants off his name.
Yeah, they're going to change it for him and rearrange them. So yeah, that's my wonderful sit there. I can't even get names right. And Jesus, I'm not even drinking. Good Lord. All right, so let's move on to our flex position as well. Starting off, Greenlaw, let's give it again. You've got the honor to give us our first sit in the flex.
I got Juwan Johnson this week. 3 targets last week. He had 2 touchdowns on those 3 targets, and I just don't think it's very sustainable. Adam Troutman, the other tight end for the Saints, had, I think, 8 targets, led the team. So I think this was just kind of a fluky red zone thing. A lot of people were picking him up off the waiver wire, Juwan, and I don't really get it. So I'm sitting Juwan this week. If you picked him up as a streamer, I don't know if that was the best play. I think you could have picked up Troutman as well, and he's getting more opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. Troutman has got the snap count that you want to see. Juwan Johnson kind of got the luck of the Green Bay just fucking not caring. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I mean, Juwan Johnson is one of those guys I just don't see sticking around for the long haul of being one of the top fantasy tight ends.
So you're going to sit what I read in a little tagline today, the DK Metcalf of the Saints. I shit you not. That's what I saw out there. Someone said the DK Metcalf of the Saints.
Is it because like he's huge and he moved from wide receiver to tight end? Because that's the only reason I could think of, labeling him as DK Metcalf.
I have no idea why they put it in there. I said to myself, that article is complete garbage. I'm not even clicking on it. I'm not spending any of my.
You should have reported it for false information.
You could do that on Twitter now.
You want to start trapping? God dang it. Graver gives us an update. He says he might get to talk about it, his sleeper. It's a race against time. Guys, we just want to cover his flex and sleeper now so he doesn't have that chance.
That would be epic, but we'll give him at least one shot. But I will talk about Tim Patrick because I have Tim Patrick in a couple of my fantasy leagues. He went undrafted, which I find so odd because he was the de facto wide receiver too. People got so confused thinking that with Cortland Sutton back, is going to be Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy when Jerry Jeudy was in fact going to start in a slot and could be wide receiver 3, not out of talent per se, but out of what how they run it.
Right.
And that exactly came true when you saw this game play out, was that while Jerry Jeudy was the third wide receiver on the field in certain sets, he was getting a lot of targets, but Tim Patrick, he has yet to drop a ball. He caught every pass thrown his way, and when you're a wide receiver that does that week in and week out, you are the guy that you're Mr. Reliable. And Tim Patrick came on the scene last year, and when he was a restricted free agent, and there was a conversation about him versus Josh Reynolds in our group chat, and I kept banging the table for Tim Patrick. Well, at least Tim Patrick's fucking healthy, Justin Mello. So I just want to throw that out there that Tim Patrick is a wide receiver 2, and he's the de facto wide receiver 2 in Denver, and he's going to be a wide receiver 2 this week at least.
I tend to agree, but I'm going to save my thoughts because of who my sleeper is. But I'm on the same path with Graver there as far as, because I mean it's looking good for anyone not named Jeudy and Sutton coming off of knee injury. So I'll save my points. I'm already kind of getting into it, but yeah, I do agree. I think there's a couple of Denver receivers are going to see an uplifted target share for sure with Jeudy being out. So with that being said, let's go on to Zach. Who is your sit?
Danny Amendola. The only reason he is on here is because he has Amen in his name over at the Houston Texans, and he is 35 fucking years old. And you're telling me this guy was wide receiver 36 last year? That's how bad the Jaguars are. And I know that you already talked about Brandon Cooks. So Danny Amendola is just a middle of the road piece of shit. And I'm just sick of him being in the league. He can't stay healthy. I would say that he has more concussions this game than catches. So Danny Amendola is out.
He gets a concussion just putting his helmet on.
Man, I feel bad for Danny Amendola. He's really not a bad guy. I swear to you guys, he's not a bad guy.
He caught a lot of strays probably from me that were unnecessary.
Yeah, look, he worked hard. He made a JV team in Texas. I mean, good for him.
They just signed him like a couple weeks ago, the Texans did, and he was a top 24 wide receiver against the Jags.
I mean, give me a break. I mean, they're going up against the Browns. I'm out on Danny Amendola, and I'm sure there's people that are going to have to start him.
I think you're pretty safe sitting Danny Amendola.
Yeah, this is real good work here.
He's probably the least rosterable person that we're talking about tonight. I imagine he's owned in like 1% of leagues.
I shouldn't say anything either because I feel like I'm stealing candy from a baby with my start in the flex as well with Chris Carson going against the Titans. Again, like Zach was saying earlier, I just start your Seahawks. It's going to be this defense didn't prove anything to me. I'm kind of on a wait and see with this defense from here on out, just because I had misguided faith apparently in them thinking, oh, maybe they can put something together. Maybe they can. No, I don't think they can. So the Titans, if they have any hope to salvage the season, that offense has to get going to make the defense passable. And Seattle's going to run the ball. In fact, all the running backs on the roster, no one got over 2 carries outside of Chris Carson. So that's, again, you're talking about a lion's share going forward. He is the guy there. No one else got, like I said, more than 2 totes. Rashad Penny still came up lane with a calf injury, so he's not going to be a threat there. So I like Carson this week, and I feel a little dirty picking him because I think it's an easy pick.
Well, he had
It's super easy.
117 all-purpose yards last week, all-purpose yards, 117, and didn't even crack the top 60 of fantasy football players for the flex position. That's how wild week 1 was. When I saw that, I'm thinking, you're talking about a guy that scored 12-something points and he even cracked the top 60?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen again. It's just wild how this all ended up.
Yeah,
Yep.
and maybe me. And here's the thing. Here's the consolation. If I'm wrong on this, that means the Titans bucked up and actually stopped him. I'd be okay with that result too. I'll take this loss on the flex for fantasy if it means good results for the Titans.
You won't take the loss. I saw a cut up last night of the all the motions that the Seahawks do pre-snap. It's going to have Rashaan Evans' mind like scrambled eggs before the snap even occurs.
In a blender.
Yep.
Yeah, my confidence is at an all-time low for that, so they'll have to prove it before anything else. So,
the boys over at Outkick 360 said yesterday when they were in the midst of talking about RGPFS, which is proprietary grading system,
out there.
They said that Bobby Wagner is everything that Rashaan Evans isn't.
Yeah, that's very true. Which is a good linebacker.
Yeah.
A good NFL linebacker. Oh, man.
Also, like, just staying on the
hard.
inside linebacker. Yeah, he tried really hard, and we appreciate him for that. I think Horn is getting him some orange slices as we speak. But watching Monday Night Football, I kept on thinking, how did the Titans not sign KJ Wright? He's out on the streets for months and months and months, and they were okay with,
Nick
the couple guys they have. Yeah. Yeah. PFF's number one graded player from from week 1, 2020.
Yep.
That's something to really hang your hat on. That really gets you on an
I think they give you a trophy for that.
Speaking of, and I know this is off topic, I'm kind of delaying here. I forgot to mention this, the angry runs, because I think it was JG picked Connor last week for his running back. The first angry runs of the year goes to Connor for that stiff arm on Jackrabbit that went nowhere. He was tackled for a loss. I can't.
And there were better runs than that.
I just, if you're going to stiff arm, it's got to be commanding, and it's got to go for positive yards. It can't be tackled right where you stiff arm the guy. That does nothing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So anyway, I'm just trying to lay to see if we can get JG in here to let him talk about a sleeper. So we'll let him go last. We'll save him. Greenlaw, kick us off. Who is your sleeper this week?
Antonio Gibson, Washington football team. Yeah, this one is super cheap. All of mine have been pretty cheap, I think, but this might be the cheapest. He's just got to finish in the top 75, and he's facing a New York Giants defense that gave up a 70-yard run to the corpse of Melvin Gordon. I don't know that this is going to be a real hard one to get. So, yeah, I really don't think this is going to be an issue. If I don't get this one, there's going to be real problems with Antonio Gibson going forward.
Yeah, if he doesn't get in the top 75, I'm panicking. Because I got a lot of Antonio Gibson shares.
Again, much like last week, I like it so much. I actually had Antonio Gibson in my start for running backs until I then went to go do my sleeper and saw you had him out there. I was like, God dang it! So I had to go back and then change and put in Damian Harris. So I think that he's going to be a start for running backs, which is even a smaller criteria than a sleeper for sure. So I think that this is an easy win for you. I mean, I think honestly we should just go ahead and make it 1-0 for you. Right now.
Thank you. And so a little bit more numbers on this, just buying JG a little bit more time. He's seeing more snaps than he was last year. He's seeing more targets in the passing game than he was last year. So the usage is what we thought it was going into this year. The production just wasn't there last week. I think it will be there this week and going forward.
I agree.
So skipping JG, let's go on. Zach, who is your sleeper this week?
Well, I can't believe that he was flex position player number 84 this last week, and that's George Kittle. Start George Kittle. Don't let him. Don't get in your head about this whole thing. Just start George Kittle.
I mean, yeah, I'd hope you'd be starting George Kittle anyway. It just was week 1. That's the thing. Real results in football, fantasy results. It was a weird week for a lot of things, and it's going to have some false narratives going forward that you're really going to have to watch and balance. It was one of the crazier week 1s in football actual game results as far as for our pick'em. It just what went on there, and then with fantasy, it just how is George Kittle not even in the top 75 for sleepers? That makes no sense.
I think Debo had like 50% target. I think Debo had like 50% target share that game. Just super weird game.
Told you guys Debo was back.
Yeah, you did. You called him.
I wish someone would have told me that Ayuk was dead.
Yeah.
I wish someone would have alerted me that.
I will say, well, hey, any given Sunday. That's what Shanahan said, any given Sunday.
Just to stall here a little more, because apparently it takes 10 minutes to fire up a computer. He must have like a supercomputer there in his room. The sad story is we were trying to set up the halftime hit show over at Bourne's for in between. And I was rushing, trying to set all that up before the game kicked off. And I was trying to do my rosters real quick. And I noticed that Odell was going to be out. So I was like, well, I've got Debo on the bench. I should have put him in anyway. That's smart to start him over Odell anyway. So I made the switch. Apparently I forgot to hit save.
And
it kept
ESPN.
Yep. And I lost by 5 points.
That is the worst feature on these fantasy apps, that they make you hit save, because Sleeper doesn't. It just swaps you.
Yeah, and maybe my brain, because I just got done with Sleeper making the changes there, so maybe my brain was thinking that I was good. I don't know, but I just one button away from a win. It's a sad story. But a happier story, hopefully, is my sleeper in Noah Fant. And again, much like all the points for Tim Patrick, somebody's going to take up the lion's share. When Jared Jeudy went down, first of all, let me start over. He's out 4 to 6 weeks, so I would be looking for Tim Patrick shares, Noah Fant shares. Noah actually chipped in with 8 targets, led all of the team, 6 catches for 62 yards. Moves up to, in my opinion, I know you said Tim Patrick number 2, but I think Noah works up to the number 2 receiving option, because also Courtland Sutton is still coming off a knee injury. He's a little tentative out there as well. I think he's a valuable red zone target as well. I just think he's a no brainer, much like Kittle, to take a lot of target shares, get you a lot of points, and creep up into that top 75 in sleepers.
What's up?
Hey, Graver, we saved the best for last. You get to talk about one of your picks. But before we move on, did anybody got anything bad to say about the Fant pick? Anything good? Anybody want to pat me on the back? No?
I mean,
horrible pick. Here's what I'll say about it, since I haven't got to say a goddamn word yet. Excuse my language.
Well, you have. You've
Coming in
been
hot.
in the chat all night.
I've been representing you in the chat, sir.
I agree, and I appreciate it. I heard everything you guys said, even the bad stuff, which honestly, there wasn't really any bad stuff. Here's what I'll say about the flex. And this is just looking at fantasy point leaders from last week. I mean, you look at the top scoring wide receivers compared to the top scoring running backs. I mean, how many running backs even scored 15 points? 16 of them. How many wide receivers scored 15 points? 32. 32 receivers. The receivers just score way more points than the running backs. And I don't want to give you guys this tip, because I don't want you to start picking wide receivers for your flex starts and running backs for your flex sits and feeding me in the sit start. But for the sake of giving our audience the best information, I will say, if you don't have 3 top 20 running backs, don't flex a running back, flex a receiver. And sure, maybe a tight end who catches a lot of passes could qualify. So Ryan, Zach, I'm not hating on your picks. I'm just saying, statistic percentage wise, probability wise, those wide receivers are scoring way more points than any other position except for quarterback.
Well, first off, I set a wide receiver in the flex, and then we're talking sleepers. So George Kittle and Noah Fant are sleepers.
Oh, we're already on sleepers.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go, buddy.
Bit.
So if you're going to jump in here and call people's names out, you might want to check the old little arrow over here that says sleeper picks of the week is where we're at.
I will say on that note that the point still stands, because sleeper's top 75 at the position, flex is top 60 at the position. You have a little bit better. You got 15 more spots, but
riddle me this then: the Denver specifically, why is Noah Fant then get the most targets after Jerry Jeudy went out for the team?
No, I think I said it's a solid pick because Noah Fant basically plays receiver for the Broncos. He basically plays slot receiver. So good pick there. My sleeper of the week is really just to spite Zach, to be honest.
I knew it was.
It is running back Leonard Fournette, Lombardi Lenny, baby. And I know he didn't really have the week we were looking for last week, but neither did Ronald Jones. And because Bruce Arians came out and said that Ronald Jones is going to be his starter this week, throw all that away, take everything Bruce Arians says, and do the opposite. Ronald Jones might start. We'll see if he plays more than one snap, okay? No. Lenny's catching the passes this week. I feel like he's going to get in the end zone. I just have that gut feeling that Ryan has sometimes. It's never really worked for me before, but maybe I can get some of that magic going.
Well, that's all you need to know, listeners. It's never worked before, so don't listen to Justin.
Hey, do you get any points for tipped passes that go for interceptions? Do you get to share that?
Whoa, he also mossed Micah Parsons. Let's not forget that.
And he didn't fumble at least. Sure,
Micah
he caused an interception, whatever.
Yeah, Julio
Defensive
Jones
player
did
of the
that.
year,
Who
Micah
cares?
Parsons. He looks
True.
so good.
Ronald Jones was apparently in his own head. Like, it's not like Tom Brady who's like, get this guy out of my lineup. He can't do it. It's like Ronald Jones is over there like, man, I fumbled. I suck. Like, I can't play football anymore. So I feel like Bruce
All
Arians
true.
is just doing this media stuff to like help Ronald Jones's like confidence, but it's not going to play out on the field on Sunday because once they get there, Bruce Arians is going to be like, oh, I'm trying to win. So I'm not going to play this shitty running back who sucks. I'm going to play
He's
Lombardi
just gonna
Lenny,
play the other shitty running back that sucks.
who also sucks. Yes.
All right, well, Graver, thank you for joining us and giving us some great insight on one of your picks. We try to do our best with the other picks. We'll see how it shakes out for you. Thank you so much for participating. And as CEO Jonathan Bourne said, thank you for dressing up for the podcast. You look
my work
dapper.
attire.
Awesome. Well, let's get to the questions. I think we had a couple, maybe one. I think there was a comment that was
there's one
better,
right here.
I think there was a better representative of the same question.
The punctuation in this one is giving me an aneurysm.
I thought it was two different questions.
Nope, same one. Who should I start? Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake, James White, David Johnson, or Trey Sermon?
This is a real murderer's row here.
Oh my gosh.
I think you got to be. Yeah, Mike Davis for me.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get the most opportunity.
It's Mike Davis or a total swing in the dark for Trey Sermon, just hoping that Kyle Shanahan does something crazy.
He changed his mind. Oh, yeah, this guy's going to be active now.
Well, I will say, like, I think the reason Trey Sermon was not active last week had to do with, like, special teams numbers and getting hasty out on the special teams unit. So if they just replace Mostert with a running back 1-for-1, like, Sermon could at least be active this week. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get all the carries, but I do think if you didn't get Eli Mitchell in your leagues out there, like Jermichael Hasty is worth picking up just in case, because Eli Mitchell's either going to pull a Jeff Wilson and like break his leg in half after 2 starts, which is what happened the last time the 49ers had a random guy become a fantasy starter, or Kyle Shannon's just going to be like, all right, let's cycle these running backs up and see what we can do. Like, because that's what he always does.
I think that's the most likely thing is they're going to shuffle everybody. That new guy, Cannon, that they added, he's going to be thrown into the mix and get 5 random carries. It's going to be a mess.
Cannon will be active because he plays special teams.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon may be inactive again. We will see what happens there.
Oh, that would be hilarious because I know of a certain someone that is 6'7" that spent 101 waiver dollars because he traded for some waiver dollars just to make sure he was able to get Elijah Mitchell, but he already spent a 5th-round pick on Trey Sermon.
Oh man,
what's worse?
All in on the 49ers.
Go actually get your points or spending a pick on an inactive player.
Yeah.
The kicker is way worse. The kicker's always going to be worse.
Might give you points at some point.
Here's the last question we got in the chat.
I would absolutely not start Dylan Cook because I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I think that's targeted right at Ryan.
Yes, that is a shot to Ryan's heart. As an uppercut.
There is another question, actually, that we haven't addressed yet. Jonathan Bourne wondered, will there any important company news be announced here? He doesn't want to miss anything.
I mean, unless he wants to call in and announce something, not that I'm aware of.
We do have this question. Did Juwan Johnson run a 7.87 3-cone?
That was
I can look that up for you.
Comparison.
No, yeah, we get it. DK Metcalf. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really feel like expending the energy to go look up what his 3-cone was.
I definitely don't think the Saints are going to like score 5 passing touchdowns with under 150 passing yards every week.
His 3-cone was 6.94.
Yep.
Holy
so better,
crap! This guy is
this guy's the next DK Metcalf.
He's twice the athlete DK Metcalf is, and DK Metcalf ran a 4.3.
Oh, goodness gracious. So he also doesn't, Jonathan also asked about our sleepers, about all the picks. And yeah, we admit it. We're picking some pretty easy ones in the sleeper because that's what the points say we can do. Because our rule is.
So for anyone I don't know if
Top
everyone
25
out there knows the rules, but it's like for quarterbacks sits, we have to pick somebody who's in the top 12, a QB1, and sit them. If we pick a start, we have to pick someone who's outside the top 12. So it's like someone you wouldn't normally pick. Of course, after week 1, all the standings are ridiculous, so you can pick basically anybody. But for running backs, it's top 24, wide receivers, top 24, flex, top 60, and sleeper, top 75. So if they're not in the top 75 of flex positions after week 1, we can pick them as a sleeper.
Yeah, so of course, we'd be dumb to say, well, I'm not going to pick them because they're a good player. I mean, that really defeats the purpose. Well, it'll all even out in the wash. We'll have a lot more harder picks as we go forward. I mean, this is week 1. It was a fluke. This isn't going to be this many names that you can pick from in the sleeper picks. So,
and for people that we're actually helping out is like all these players may be good and we expect them to be good in fantasy, but they had a bad week 1. So there could be people out there who are like, should I roll with them again in week 2? And we're saying absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe it's easy, but I mean, that's what it presented to us and we took it. So hopefully that explains that there. And guys, I'm proud of us. Unless I take 5 minutes closing us here, we actually got in under an hour for, I think, the first time in the show's history for our sit starts. I'm proud of us. Round of applause. And then maybe this is because one of our hosts was on the road half the time, but he was contributing. So there we go.
I mean, most of last week too. And that didn't happen.
I have to go back and check. I actually don't remember what that time was on that because we ran together with
He's just distracting you, Ryan. Close us out.
All right, so remember, be sure to check out all of our other podcast articles, everything we have to offer at BroadwaySocialMedia.com. We are partnered with 440 Sports. Make sure you hit up our merchandise section where there is the code FLEX15. As we stated earlier, some great shirts to go pick from. They are super comfortable, super soft. I was hoping one of you could be modeling them tonight, but there we go. So some great shirts out there. If you're listening to the podcast, sorry, you'll have to tune into the YouTube. Literally the smartest person covering the Titans. Ryan and Derek and AJ and Julio and Taylor love that shirt. Graver's holding up his Flex shirt in the background, hidden by our producer right now. Follow Broadway Sports on Twitter at BroadwayTN and the show at Flex on Broadway. Follow Zach at FWordsPod, JG at Titans Film Room, Greenlaw at Rob on Broadway, myself at Ryan on Broadway. Be sure to check out our Facebook, Instagram accounts. Lots of good stuff going on there. I think Instagram's still uploading stuff, so check out those as well. But until next time,